Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you guys how to create a prop in the Unity Endstar SDK and export it into Endstar. So to start, let's go up in the Prop SDK tab and go here to the top left where it says File with the little drop down arrow and click that, and then click New Prop. I'm going to be recreating this dungeon table today, and so I'm just going to put in a name. You're going to put a name for whatever your prop is and put in a useful or funny description for it. So I'm going to write dungeon table number 2, and I'm going to describe it as an old wooden table. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And once you've put in a name and a description, you can go down here and click create. That will take you to this scene here. You'll see a red box and you'll see that a folder has been created for your prop. So in my props folder, I have a folder designated for Dungeon Table 2. Great. Now I'm going to import my model for this dungeon table. So I'll go ahead and right click in my folder and import new asset. And I'll go ahead and import my FBX and my texture into Unity. Once those are in, I'm going to take my FBX and drag it into the hierarchy. And now I can see it in the scene. It's very white though, it does not look like a table quite yet, so let's add a material. But here's an important thing to note about materials for your models when exporting to Endstar. You're going to want to make sure you are using the Endstar endless shaders for your model and for all the materials for your prop. If you try to use the Unity Universal Render Pipeline, you're going to run into some errors and be unable to export your prop. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll show you what to do to avoid it. So I have a base material here that comes with my model, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to create a new material. So let's right click, go to create, and go to material. And I'm just going to call it table mat. Alright, once table mat has been created, I've got my new material. I'll go into the inspector, and right at the top under shader, I'm going to click it. See that drop down, and I'm going to go to shader graphs. Click on that, and then go down to endless, and you'll see a bunch of different shaders, but you're going to want to use endless shader no fade. So click on that, and you should be good to go. Now you can see slots where you can put your maps. I just have a texture mat, so I'm going to drag that into the first one right there, and you can see our material changed. I'll drag that new material onto my table. And would you look at that? My table looks a little more like a table now. Next, I'm going to fit the table model into this box. This box is going to correspond with the blocks that we see in Endstar for building. So you can consider that when fitting in your model to make sure that it's the right size and that it's scaled pretty nicely to other things that are going to be in your game. So I'm going to go ahead and move it around, just kind of adjust it in here. I'll bring it down. I want the bottom of the table to be at the bottom of this box so that it sits nicely on the floor. I'm going to pull it this way to the edge of the table. Awesome, that looks pretty good right now. As you can see, I'm going to need more than one box to accurately display the size of this table. So what I'm going to do is go back into the Prop SDK tab, and in the section Location Offsets, and it says Prop Location Offset, I'm going to put in, instead of 1, I'm going to put in 2. So my prop is going to require 2 blocks. You don't see it immediately, but that's just because the blocks are overlapped on top of each other. So I want to specify that I want my other block to be 1 over in the X direction from this block. So right here, I'm just going to put X1, and as you can see, there's my 2 blocks. So Now I can just go ahead and nudge my table over and readjust as necessary. You can scale, do whatever you need. I'll kind of scale it in a little bit like that. And that's looking pretty good. It's fitting in the boxes really nicely. And now you'll also see we have two options here, navigable and blocking. Navigable is going to make sure that AI characters and other things can't phase through and clip through your prop. So I don't want that to happen, so you'll keep it on never. Blocking is going to say whether or not things can be placed on top of your prop, or for instance, if you can jump on top of your prop. I actually do want that to happen. I want you to be able to jump on the table and put things on top of it. So I'm going to say never blocking top of my table. Okay. Now that we have the blocking and location offsets worked out, I'm going to specify what kind of prop it is. For the purpose of this video, it's going to be a static prop, and I recommend that other beginners who are creating props stick to using static props. But there are a bunch of components you can add to create interactability and more engaging props. But for now, it's a static prop. It's just a decoration. It doesn't really trigger or activate anything. So we'll click that over here, and you'll see the component section will be grayed out. So it's a static prop. I've got my blocks in, and now I want to make sure that I add a collider to this so that my player doesn't clip through the table, and other players also can't clip through the table. So to do that, we'll go into the hierarchy, right click, and create an empty object. I'm just going to name it collider. Once you've done that, I'm going to hover over collider and right click again and go down to 3D object. And based on your model, you can choose a shape that is more accurate to it and makes more sense. I'm just going to use a cube because it's pretty simple, a pretty simple shape. So I'll click that, and there's the cube. I'll keep it named cube. And now you're going to want to adjust the size of your collider to your prop. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it down a little bit and make it much longer, cover the edge of the table, make sure it covers the bottom and sides. And that's pretty good, yeah. I'm pretty happy with that. Once you have your collider in the placement that you want and scaled how you want, you're gonna make sure you have it selected and go into the inspector, and you're gonna turn off the mesh renderer because we don't want to see the gray box and the mesh of the collider. We just want the collision. So turn off the mesh renderer. And related to the shaders, we want to make sure that this mesh renderer is not using the universal render pipeline. As we can see here in materials, element 0 is using the lit of the universal render pipeline. So we're going to want to click the circle right next to it and go up in alphabetical order to the endless shaders, and once again click endless shader no fade to make sure that we are using the correct shader, because this will also throw you an error if you are not using the proper shader. So don't forget that. Alright, now we can go ahead and add our final collision component. I have it typed in already, but you'll go ahead and search for collider info, and you'll be able to add the collider info script to your prop. Make sure the collider type is set to default. Alright, now that we have collision set up and our renderer is correct and the mesh renderer is gone, is disabled, we can... Alright, now that our collision is all set up, we can go back into the props SDK and double check our stuff. I have the right amount of blocks for my location offset, the settings are as I want, it's a static prop, I have a collider on it. It's looking pretty good. When you have it like this, you can go ahead and create a snap icon. This is the icon that will show up in Endstar for your prop, and that created a nice little icon for me right there. I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to choose to make it open source so that other players can use my prop. So once everything is all set and you've double checked what you've got going on for your prop, you can go down to the bottom of the prop SDK and click export. The build and upload time is going to depend on the size and complexity of your model, so it'll take a couple minutes. Once your prop has finished uploading in Unity, you'll go ahead and click complete and close out and come to Endstar to test it out. So I'm here, I'm going to open up a level of mine and see if our table works. Alright, so I've loaded into my level. To add a prop that you have, you're gonna go here to this 3 tab, this is the prop tab, and you're gonna want to go up to the plus sign and hit that, and then click search for prop. For any props that you've just uploaded and not added yet, they will be here under the owned section in your available assets. I have already added mine, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my props. Come down here and click Dungeon Table 2, and then place that just randomly in the scene. We'll put it right there. Now I'm gonna hit play to make sure that my colliders are working and that everything is set up and ready to go. So let's do that. Right. Moment of truth. Woo, would you look at that? I can stand on my table, I can jump on top of it, and that is looking good. You can see I have a little space on the bottom there, but it's really easy to go ahead, go back into the Unity engine, make adjustments to your prop, and re-export it. And it'll save the versions. You'll just have to update the version when you go into your props. But that is that. That is how you add a prop into Endstar. So good luck, folks, and happy gaming!